What's up, guys? How are we? How are we? Welcome in, welcome in. We're going to invite Swindle in here 1 second. Thumbs up. We good? What up?
Yo, dude.
How we doing?
Good, man.
Good. What's up, guys? Welcome in. Let's go ahead and get started just so we can get through, allow for some questions and hear from our good friend, Andrew Swindle, aka the Hamburglar. So, first and foremost, for those who are joining in right now, Andrew's been with us at UET for a while now. He has been someone who's been posting profits pretty regularly. He's had a nice little run of success, but didn't start out that way. Kind of went back and forth, lots of ups and downs. So we're excited to hear from him and have him on with us today. If you guys have questions, anything, or interested in what we do here, shoot us a DM. We will have a time at the end of this to ask Andrew questions as we go through. Andrew's a great friend of mine. We go fly fishing together. We golf together. We do lots of different things together. So very excited for his success, but also excited to have him here today. So again, if you have questions, just save them for the end after we go over a few things, then you can feel free to ask away. But yeah, Swindle, thanks for hopping on, man. Good to have you here.
This is fun, Jared. Thanks, dude. I was just chatting with my girlfriend earlier this morning. She's like, "Oh my gosh, you're going on live. How are you feeling?" I was like, "Yeah, I've made it big time." But I was honestly, she's like, "What are you feeling?" And I was like, honestly, just a lot of gratitude.
Sweet.
A lot of gratitude. And you know that, but I want everyone else on here to know that too. Life comes at all of us in different shapes and sizes, fast pace, slow pace, all of the above. I think we experience in life, and what you have helped me learn, and what Uncommon has brought into my life has been just awesome for me and my family, a huge blessing. And so, yeah, that's what I'm feeling. Just a lot of gratitude and happy to talk about whatever is helpful for the folks on here, and
Cool.
will help UET and other people. I do feel like I'm one of your best missionaries right now. Not gonna lie.
The best missionaries. the UET faithful. You know what's funny is, as a lot of you know who are a part of our community, we don't do a whole lot of advertising as far as like a traditional business goes. It's just a lot of word of mouth. A lot of people that we know, which is cool, makes our community nice and tight knit. So for those listening right now, let's go ahead and go through a few pieces of Swindle. Obviously, Andrew, feelings are mutual about you, my friend. Love having you here and love seeing your success. Why don't you start out by letting us know how long you've been trading for, when you took your first mastermind, and I guess how you learned about Uncommon Education.
Yeah. I'll back up even a little bit more maybe. Grew up here in Salt Lake City, Utah, and had raised by a single dad pretty much from the time I was 12 on, and he was very much a no risk individual in his life. He is actually in year 46 of his job up at the University of Utah. Pretty steady, long career, very, very risk adverse individual. And kind of through talents and connections, kind of followed in his footsteps a little bit. And I worked in nonprofit fundraising in the education space for about 6 years, and loved working with donors to help secure scholarship support for students that were deserving, things like that. But always kind of just felt like, man, I'm going to be like my dad, and I'm going to be in this for 40 years and grinding away like many people feel like they're in their job, and that's great. My hat's off to people that do that. For me, I really wanted to be close to my dad. He means a lot to me in my life, and so there was a little bit of an attachment there. But had a really good friend kind of come to me and say, "Hey, do you enjoy what you're doing?" And they asked me that honestly, and I was like, well, there's a lot of parts of my job, like many people, that I love, that I enjoy, but ultimately like, no, I want more for myself. I want more freedom, those types of things. And Jay, I remember playing golf with you for 2 years ago, and golly, I think it was Blocks, was our friend Jordan Bloxham. Shout out to Blocks, the golf guy. And it was like the best because I remember him, I was like, what does Jeremy do? And he's kind of telling me, and I was like, oh man, that's some crazy stuff. That stock options trading, like, I don't know about that. That sounds like some snake oil, blah, blah, blah. Just like kind of fear of the unknown, right? You're always scared of what you don't know. And so wrote that off, and then a few months later, another friend of ours was doing the same thing, and you and Bernard were chatting it up, and my ears started kind of percolating, and I was like, what are they talking about, and what is this stuff, and how does it work? And you do a little bit of research, and I just was so naive to the whole world of truly the stock market in general. Like, had some long-term holds, had good retirement account, things like that, and some pretty blue chip things, but no sophistication there, right? And that curiosity kind of just got me going. And I think having friends and people that you know and trust who have lived through the ups and downs of a trader's journey was really big for me to then say, okay, I want to take a closer look at this, right? Because this isn't, there's people on here that don't know me from, the random guy at the grocery store. They don't know you, and they're like curious about this stock options thing. Well, it helps to have someone, and you don't need that. You need to just learn. And that was, I remember talking to Bernard and saying, hey, what is this? What does it look like? And so, yeah, contacted you. I think it was like, November, December, and was like, hey, I want to get in the next mastermind. I want to make this happen. And you were like, okay, the next one's in February. We'll get you signed up. And sure enough, I had been out of the country. I was actually fly fishing in Cuba, and came back, and the next day the classes started. And I remember reaching out to Carol, who's kind of one of the administrators for UET. For those of you that don't know, she is awesome. Huge shout out to Carol. She's so helpful as far as like helping you get things set up when you enroll in the class and making sure you have your nuts and bolts in line. And I just came in and was like drinking from a fire hose in February, end of February, March, man. My notebook, like I grabbed both of my notebooks here, and I was just like, holy cow, how many times can I write down the same thing? So that was when I started. I took the mastermind. It was awesome, 5-week course, and you added a bonus kind of week for us a little bit to fill in some gaps that questions people had, and some more help, live trading, things like that. And so it was great 6 weeks, and I was off and running. I'll never forget that first trade. I think it was like $42 I made off of a really small move, and I was like, wait, that's my money now. I can just grab that and withdraw that to my account. Like, okay, that took care of my lunch for the day, or me and my kids for the day, whatever it was. And it was kind of like, wow, this is crazy. So that was kind of the start.
Cool. Yeah, that first time you make money in the stock market as a day trader, it's wild. Doesn't matter if it's $1, $100, $1,000. That first realization, it's pretty cool. Okay, so you knew nothing about the stock market and actually kind of grew up opposing that type of mentality where you actually were more risk adverse. So the first time you'd ever learned / dove in was in February. Since then, obviously, you've had lots of ups and downs, big swings up, big swings down, and then kind of our recent over the last handful of months success and consistency that you've been looking for. Tell us the biggest challenge you faced after you had gone through the mastermind, once you had learned the skill set, the biggest challenge you faced, and also as you went through the mastermind, do you feel like it was very difficult concepts to grasp? Do you feel like it was really hard and kind of like, man, you have to be really smart to learn this? Those two questions I know are a lot that people have. What going through the course was like? Just, was it difficult? Was it easy? And then 2, what was the biggest challenge you faced after the mastermind? And we'll start talking about what happened after.
Okay, so back to the risk adverse part of me. My dad and I are actually very different in that aspect. So I was kind of saw that, right?
Awesome.
Hey, keep your risk down and just be steady and consistent. But I myself am like very comfortable taking some risks and rolling with it. I think growing up and playing sports, I was thinking about some of the things that, you know, if I were to say like what has helped me be successful, being comfortable with taking risks is actually something that has made me comfortable. In the sense that, man, I mean, growing up and skiing at Alta and, you know, hucking my body off of 30, 40-foot
Mm-hmm.
cliffs and being like, dude, we gotta send it. Like your buddy's there with his camera and filming and let's do this, bro. You're like, okay, 3, 2, 1, dropping, like I'm boosting this huge thing and whoop, here we go. And you know, you're flying through the air. And that always kind of fed my soul a little bit. I love that. I do think I'm a little bit. I am an adrenaline junkie. I like that. I like, you know, in golf you get that clutch putt. You know, those types of things. Those are fun. So I was comfortable with that, but I did not know that about myself. I will
Mm-hmm.
say, like I do now. And so I want to clarify that. And then I would say, what was the course like? Man, it was like drinking from a fire hose in the sense that so much of this was foreign to me. Um, but it was very simple as far as what I was being taught, cause and effect, the methodology. It just comes at you really fast when you don't have that background. And I think the one great thing about I remember starting out was you being on that first mastermind, like, listen, I do not want anyone on here. I don't care how much money you have to put into this. I don't care if you have just won the lottery and you want to deploy, you know, $10 million. You're not having more than $2,000 in your trading account.
Mm-hmm.
And that for me was really great, as far as being able to pump the brakes, because like I said, I mean, wow, I just made $42 on this first trade. Well, wow, let's do some math here. And if I'd have, you know, deployed 10 times that, like, oh man, I would have, you know, wow, 420, that would have been great. And, you know, you kind of do the extrapolation there. But that was really good. Hey, it's coming at you fast. We're going to put some bumper lanes up. We're going to
Mm-hmm.
tell you, we're not going to control you. You know, Jeremy and Uncommon, they don't have control of your account. You can do whatever you want, but we're going to tell you what we think you should do. So that was really helpful during the course, because it did come at you fast. The things that came at me fast, I mean, I think understanding the trading platform, you know,
Mm-hmm.
that we recommend using, and people use a lot of different things out there, but Thinkorswim, which is through Charles Schwab, for those that don't know, at the time it was TD Ameritrade, those things, that was a little bit of a learning curve for me, but I had a lot of experience in my career using different software programs to do my job. I remember being with different companies and we would change software regularly that we use, whether it's a CRM, those types of things. So some familiarity with that was helpful to me.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but that was a little bit tricky. But then for me, what it really was okay, I can sit here and memorize the strategies. I can memorize the candle patterns. I can rewatch these videos and understand volume, all of those things. But what I was not prepared for was, you know, good old Alex and the emotional roller coaster, right?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I remember him talking in our first mastermind. For those of you that don't know, within the course, there's a section a day of the course where you focus on, you know, sort of the mental and emotional aspects that come with day trading. And Alex did a wonderful job of that with our group. I don't know if you're going to have him do
Yep.
that, or other people do that, but Alex is a stud. And I think he, you know, shared a little bit of his own journey in that, and having him talk about that, you can tell, like, yeah, this is a guy who, dude, he's held his feet in the fire a little bit, and
Yeah.
he's felt all the things he's teaching us about. So, yeah, it was like, oh yeah, I got that. And I'm a person that's, you know, I like to consider myself emotionally in tune, what, if you will, have highs and lows in life, ride the waves of life. Highs are high, lows are low. Worked through that, matured through that. Man, I'm a human being that's been through a lot in life, I think, and
Mm-hmm.
been in therapy and done some things. But man, this was like the crash course of looking in the mirror at all of those highs and lows over my whole life, spelling out in, you know, the matter of 15 minutes in a market, right? In
Yeah.
a trade. So those types of things, that's really was a part that was kind of caught me by surprise, I think, was how real that is and how big that is. And that's why there's parameters you set in place to help you, right? So that you're not
Totally
just showing up to the gambling table and throwing money in.
And honestly, anyone who has ever tried to trade before can relate to Andrew, right? The emotional roller coaster, the concepts are so simple, but when it's your money and you're doing it, it just, for whatever reason, becomes difficult. So why don't you give now like the 2 or 3 specific things that you were struggling with as a day trader that were preventing you from being profitable?
Yeah.
Was it too many trades? Was it holding on to losses? Was it holding on to winners too long? Like what 2 or 3 things for you personally were like the big, like, man, I don't know why I keep doing this, but I keep doing this and it's just killing me. What were some of those things?
It's probably more like 5 or 6, but yeah, 2 or 3. For sure. I mean, being a poor loser.
Mm-hmm.
I can now be here public with all these people I don't even know listen to me, and I can say I have struggled being a poor loser my whole life. I effing hate to lose, and I'm competitive. And you can be competitive and not be a bad loser. In fact, I think the people that have perfected being truly a competitor are good losers. They understand that it's part of the process, and that was really hard for me. So to translate that into trading was,
I think you got muted there. There you go.
sorry, if I hit my stop loss a lot sooner than I had expected or anticipated, or something jumped and it was, I didn't have room for it to breathe because of where I was. I did not want to lose. I did not want to lose that. And so it was definitely I'm going to hold things way too long, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's not being able to just take my 7 to 10% loss and say, cool, that's how this went today. And let's look at why and learn why. It was, I'm going to will this to change, or I'm going to like ride this out. And that was a really toxic pattern for me.
And with that, can you touch on briefly how, because I'm assuming there were a handful of times when you would hold past your stop loss and it would actually work.
Well,
you would actually make a lot of money. So talk to that, because I think a lot of traders relate to that as well.
Yeah.
What did that do for your overall consistency, breaking the rules and then still making money? Like, to walk us through that a little bit.
Yeah. So, all right, I'm gonna throw a question out to everybody that's on right now who has been in that scenario, who has traded, who has had a losing trade that they've held too long. They've been sitting on there for a long time and willing it. I will just ask the question of, how do you feel and how does your life go in that 24-hour period or that 48-hour period while you're holding that, hoping that it works out for you? Do you find yourself being more patient? Do you find yourself being more tolerant? Do you find yourself resting easy, letting your gut just breathe and being able to like let the anxiety go? And the answer, I know, is no, you don't, right? And so, man, the reason you want to hold it is because exactly what you said, Jared. That did happen for me. Like I let something, I truly didn't even know what swing trading was. I didn't know that a swing is holding something overnight or longer.
Mm-hmm.
Like, that wasn't in my vocabulary. That was not part of the strategies we taught. That was not part of the path that I should be walking at that time. And I remember the market closing for me at the time, a fairly large trade. The market was closed and I was still in it. I was like, what happens now? Like, I'm so naive. What do I have to buy? Do I buy all these options? And it's like, no, dude, they don't expire till Friday. You bought this week's contracts. And I woke up that next morning and it gapped up. I was playing calls on something and it gapped up massively. And I was like, I thought the phone was broken when I looked at the Thinkorswim on my phone. I was like, wait, there's no way I have that much money. What is going on? I got to get out immediately. And it was like, wait, bro, the market's not open. You can't get out yet. You got to wait for it to open. And then it went up even further on that first candle. It was like a big first candle boom after that, and did I strategize any of that? Nope. Did I plan any of that? Nope. Was I 100% gambling with my money? Yes.
Mm-hmm.
And did I walk out of the casino with cash coming out of every pocket? Yep. Did I want to go buy my buddies donuts and have fun and let's go to the golf course, guys? Green fees on me. Yep. Like all that's just dumb. And that though felt so good, right? Because as a guy who's competitive and wants to win, dude, I just freaking won. And
Right.
you fool yourself into thinking, I did that. I did that. And then you get in that scenario again, as you know, Jared, which I've been in a few times since then. And what happens overnight? Instead of it going gapping up,
against you,
it goes
gap
against
down.
you.
Yep.
And you zero out on the whole trade and you just feel so bad. And you realize, wow, I'm pretty miserable. I made a really bad choice. You feel shame, you feel guilt, you feel all those things. And so for me, that has happened a few times. There's actually 5. I was looking at my TradeZella, which is a software we use to kind of track your trades. And yeah, I can look back and I see these red bars on my like 7-8 month, and it's kind of funny looking at the timing. And for me, I can look at what was going on in the rest of my life at those time periods and what's going on in life and outside of my work or my trading work, clearly influenced my inability to take a loss.
Yeah.
I felt like I was maybe I felt like I was taking losses in other places in life, right? I got 2 awesome young kids running around chasing them as a single dad. Like it's hard. It's like, oh my gosh, my daughter didn't make the soccer team or this. And I'm just like, I'm stressed. I'm anxious. And guess what? The last thing I'm going to do is take another loss. So I'm going to have to get a win. And those types of things really compound my trading. And so I had to learn that the hard way. I had to say, okay, Andrew, you've got these big ticks that are kind of like these scars in your trading history. You're going to keep them there, dude. You're going to look at them every week. I do it Sunday nights. I look at my TradeZella for the duration of time I've been trading since March 1st of this year. And boy, do I see those big, they almost look like candles, right? Those big ticks down. And I'm like, dude, just remember those. Remember how hard that was. Remember how crappy that felt. And you're not going to hold any trades. You're going to stick to your stop loss, those types of things. So that's been my journey. Jeremy, you posted something that's like a trader's journey. It was a really cool, like, what do they call those? Like a
carousel post.
Yeah, carousel post through the feed. And it was just like awesome because I was like, I think I texted you. I was like, have you been like watching my life play out for the last 7 months? Because that is pretty much it, right? Good wins, highs, lows. Oh man, this is sucky. I'm gonna strap down. Okay, I'm building a little consistency. Wow, really like overextended myself here, and that happened to me as soon as I started seeing a little bit. So I had kind of this bad series of behaviors with my. Sorry, my dog's barking. I had these bad series of behaviors here of holding those losers too long, and as I did that. I then said, okay, I got to pull back. I'm going to go back to the basics of what I was taught. And I actually reduced my account size down to $2,000. And as I did that, I became super disciplined because I realized I wasn't feeling that same sort of emotional kick that would cause me to do sort of erratic behavior. But with that $2,000 account, I then said, okay, we are going to trade the strategies and we are going to stick to our stop losses and we're going to take our profits at the right time. And I did that. And it was like, I think I had 10 days, two weeks straight, green every day. I think my lowest profit was like on the day for a trade was like, it was like 10 and a half, 11% somewhere there. My biggest was like a 40%, but it was just super consistent. And I was like, okay, let's go. You've got this figured. You've arrived, dude. Right. Let's figure this out. Now let's scale back up the account, man. There you go again. Like you get that emotional roller coaster. You're trading with so much and you're moving so much money and you're having big wins and you're having consistency. But then when you take an L, you feel it that much more because now your account size is so much bigger. So what is that number for you that causes you to feel that really bad, like despair of like, I messed up when you don't listen? So for me, that was a big key, is figuring out where that sweet spot is. And then even then, thought I kind of figured it out, and you have losses because you're leaning back on, oh, I can hold that longer, and I can win this trade. I don't want to take a loss because I've proven some success here. And really it was thanks to mentorship, right? And you to say, hey, what are we doing here? Can you tell me? This was a conversation, you guys, that I had with Jeremy. And it was, can you tell me what you're doing with these things? Are you position sizing down when you're in a trade? Are you holding stuff overnight? Are you setting stop losses, right? Those types of things. And then also, like, what's your position size on a trade? Like, you have, let's say you have $12,000 in your account. Mm-hmm. Are you deploying 8 of that on one trade? Are you deploying 4 of that on one trade? What are you doing? And I was like, man, I gotta do some thinking here. And that's where the gratitude comes in. Jeremy is having somebody in the group at UET, people that have lived it and been there and can say, do these things, work on these skills, work on this discipline. Let's see how it goes. And that's been the success, I'd say, over the last 3 weeks, has been a lot of that, and has caused me to realize, Caden, we're going to stick to these, and now we can maybe increase our account size a little bit. And
that's awesome. So, no, it's so good. And for everyone who is on this, again, here in just a few minutes, we're going to allow for a little Q&A. I'll read off questions as they come through that you guys can ask Andrew, aka the Hamburglar, in our Discord, as some of you know him as. But a few things he touched on, right? Very important to understand. Very, very similar journey to most traders, right? He's just honest about it. Driggs Walker, who you guys know, has been with us at UET, just kills it, very, very successful. Same thing. Trade with a lot of money, started seeing success, had to scale the account back down, relearn the basics, build it back up, kind of move in that direction. That's a very common trajectory, right? And what we do at Uncommon, especially with our mastermind program, is I'm there to help you guys identify what your strengths and weaknesses are. Now, to the point of where Swindle is now, we'll kind of talk about his success that he's been having over the last handful of months. Is what he didn't tell you is he actually reached out to me. He came to me and was like, all right, Jer, got this, account was this, now it's this. Basically, it's like, I know it's kind of now or never as far as implementing things the right way versus the wrong way. So yeah, we kind of set it just a firm, solid game plan. Obviously, he's been doing it since February, so he has enough of understanding of the highs and lows, ups and downs. And I think the reason it stuck, or this time it's worse, was because again, it was him coming to me. It's one thing, right, if like your parent tells you something to do when you're a kid, as opposed to if you ask your parent, right, the way that you receive the same answer is so different. And I think that's what it came to. And again, huge credit to Andrew for doing that. And we see that time and time again with people who succeed. They almost acknowledge, okay, I know I am now doing something wrong. And I know that, this is what you've said, like, help me implement that, help me stick with that, help me stay disciplined. And so since we've kind of had, a few of those conversations, and he's, done nothing other than just really follow the system, he has had, it's funny, he's averaging, I would say, more per day than he ever has, with less money and risking way less per trade. And that's kind of the whole system. And once you figure out day trading, is you should not have these massive drawdowns and like huge, kind of scary anxiety-filled trades for like a decent profit. It should be a really good profit or a very like stress-free, low-key, whatever type of loss. And it's just so difficult to have that implemented. So my question now, Swindle, and then we can kind of wrap up this portion and go to the Q&A, okay, is, again, over this stretch where you feel like you've been following things correctly, doing these things, what was it that helped you and allowed you to go from someone who basically ignored stop losses to now follows them religiously, has A-plus setups that you're taking and avoiding trades that aren't that, whereas maybe before you were taking some of those? It's a pretty big like shift, right, from doing one to the other. So what was it, or what helped you, or just kind of talk us through that switch that has now enabled you to trade, and I guess overall how you view day trading as a whole that might be different from how you did previously.
I mean, I think for me, oh man, it's hard to say this, but you got to blow it up, right? And
Mm-hmm.
you got to burn it down. You got to make the really bad mistakes to learn from them. It's just like the kid with the stove. I still remember being, I think I was like 6 years old, dude, and my grandma had given me this little bit of money, and my mom had put it. It was for my birthday. She put it up above the fridge, or above the stove, excuse me, in this cabinet. And she'd always told me, like, when you're around the stove and that mom's in here cooking, don't touch the stove, don't touch the stove, don't touch the stove, don't touch the stove. Well, I wanted to get that, like, it was like a $20 bill or something. And I just went and I put my hand like right on the stove and pushed up with all my weight to reach up high and grab this $20 bill. And my hand as a little kid was just charred, just cooked, right, on this electric burner. And how many times do you think I've touched the stove since? Not once. And I had to touch the stove, I guess, so to speak, in the sense that, like, what motivated the change. Now, that's, as I mentioned to you, like, I historically have a hard time asking for help, like most human beings, right? Prideful son of a gun sometimes, doggone it. And I went and I said, Jerry, like, I need some help. And I think what we laid out was nothing super new or groundbreaking, but it was pretty simple. Like, are you taking more than 3 trades in a day? Are you, if you take a loss on your first trade, are you then chasing it with 2 more, 3 more trades to try to make up for that loss in a day? I remember you asked me, are you journaling your trades? Are you tracking your trades? And, I said, yeah, I export the thing to TradeZella. Dude, that's not journaling. That's not journaling, right? And then what's your position size? So really kind of revisiting some of those things, and then just saying, okay, honest look in the mirror, man to man, Andrew to Andrew, what you have been doing has not been working. You have not been following any structure. If you continue down that path, it's never going to work. If you try to implement the things that Jeremy is teaching you, what's the worst that can happen? Maybe it just continues not to work, right, like you've been doing. So then you're already out. You're out again. Whatever. Or it works, and it's like, let's double down and have some discipline. Let's exercise some discipline within yourself. And so that's been the space where I've excelled, and has allowed me to scale my account size back up in a healthy way, within my parameters that are healthy for me, and say, okay, we're going to follow these things. And for me, routine has been a big thing. You guys, I got to sleep in my own bed every night before I trade. I have to have already, like, journaled and closed out the previous day's trades, that night before I go to bed, if not right after I'm done working for the day. I have to understand what stocks I'm looking at. A huge thing was narrowing that scope too. I was kind of all over the place with potential plays that are set out from UET, or kind of trends you're seeing in the market. And it was like, let's just narrow this, and we're going to focus on 5 stocks. Mm-hmm. And if you look at my profits over the last, 3 weeks, there's not any outlying stocks there. It's the same stocks, and you understand trend and behavior. So that's been a big one. But that journaling, and then the routine, my morning routine's big. It's nothing special, but I have one, right? I wake up, get the dog, feed him, take him outside, get some breath of fresh air, coffee's going, turn the machine on, let it breathe, get my my personal hygiene stuff done, and then I'm grabbing that coffee, and I'm kind of locking in that space. Sometimes a little bit of physical stretching, breathing type work really helps me regulate. Yeah. But having those things there has been really good. And then, if I could just point to one thing that we haven't really mentioned yet too, it's also been an accountability partner. Mm-hmm. Okay. Now people hear that and they think, like, yeah, an accountability partner, is that like when you're going through AA, right, and you've got someone, right, that you check in with? You're darn right it is, right? For me, I was talking with a friend who's actually in your mastermind group now, and we had a little discussion of life changes, and it's like, do what you say you're going to do and be who you say you are.
Mm-hmm.
And for me, it was I didn't need to check in and have an accountability partner with my moves in the market to somebody who knew the market. I just need to say it to somebody and say, here's the strategy I did. I went and did this, and I made this, or I lost this. And that was actually my old man, Mr. Risk Adverse himself, who thinks I'm kind of crazy for doing all this. And he doesn't know anything about stock options trading. He knows nothing other than he puts a portion of his paycheck every 2 weeks into his retirement fund that his retirement management company takes care of and invests.
Right.
And this could all just go over his head. But I'm like, every day when I'm done trading, I send a text to my dad and I say, I made this many trades and here's how much money I made.
Awesome.
That's it. And I'll tell you, I think it was 2 weeks ago, maybe, since I started doing that. It was the first time that I sent him a text and said, I think I lost like 700 and something bucks that day. And I was like, Dad, I lost $780. Dude, I was like, oh man, he's going to be like, I knew it. This is all crazy. And, certainly what was awesome is he was super supportive and was like, I'm proud of you for working at it. Keep going. And so anyways, that's been a good, helpful thing for me too.
Well, and honestly, if you think about how genius to have your accountability partner, your dad, who you don't want to disappoint, that's so funny. And I love that. That's perfect. It's like, all right, Pops, can't let you down, right? Like, yeah. I promise your son is doing it. He's
I should also
that's
share,
really
Jared,
funny.
that thing I do with my kids that I mentioned to you. My family kind of saw like these ups and downs within me, right? They saw like the anxiety or this despair when you're losing money. It's like if somebody owns a business, right? If any of you have family members, dads, uncles, aunts, wives that own businesses, and they see the volatility of like a really good quarter and then a really stressful quarter, that affects other things in life. And I think my family was feeling that. And so I went to my kids, who are cute 10-year-old little boy. He turns 10 next Tuesday, and my daughter who's 8. And I said, hey, every morning when you guys see Dad go into his office and shut the door, before I go in there, or when we wake each other up in the morning, my little guy likes to get up super early. He's up at like 6:15 every day. I just want you to look at Dad and say, make smart choices. I love you. And that is something my kids at that age, they have not failed on one day when they're, here. They always say that. And it's so great, because at first I felt almost shame. Like, man, my kids are like having to tell me like, hey, make smart choices. But all it is it's kind of like zooming out on the charts, right? Mm-hmm. You're like in that trade and you're in that 5-minute.
A little bit of perspective.
Yeah. You're in there and you're like, okay, I need this to go up at this key level. I need it to do this. And it's like, dude, let's zoom out. Let's look at the trend. Let's see what's happening. It just lets me know like, yep, this is why you're doing what you're doing, because you love your kids, and let's make smart choices on their behalf. And you can take a loss. And guess what? Those kids are still going to love you, and you're going to battle again tomorrow.
Yep.
So
love it. Love it. As you guys listening can probably tell, right? Andrew's very intentional with what he does, very smart, very, willing to accept, things and find ways to improve upon those things. So it's really cool hearing his experience and his story. And I love the fact that he's started to see, success in direct relation to what he's doing. We have about 10 minutes left, Andrew, for this. So I'm going to ask a few questions. Just give the simple answer that we'll kind of go through. It can be one word, one sentence answers, whatever. Okay. And then we'll open it up for a handful of questions as well. So since these disciplines have been in place, you kind of refer back to, about 3 weeks ago. How much money have you made in that time?
Oh, man.
3 weeks or so.
So I'll just do 2 weeks because I know that one.
Perfect.
With 2 weeks, not including today and yesterday, withdrawn exactly $24,000.
And yesterday and today, for those who don't know, what'd you make today? You made 7,000 a day, and how much yesterday?
About 1,000, 1,100.
1,000. So we're talking in a 2-week stretch, plus or minus a couple of days, over 30,000, roughly $32,000. So this is no joke, right? He's not trading with small amounts of money. He's not trading, saying, yeah, here I am, made a couple $1,000. We're talking life-changing money. My wife, when we first were married, her salary for an entire year at the company she was at, it was like kind of introductory position, was like $36,000. So you basically made what she made in an entire year last 2 weeks, right? This is big money, which is very cool.
Yeah.
During that time of the strategies that we use, for people who know, what strategy have you used? Is there one you've used specifically? Just quick, first candle, RBR, BRC, bounce reject.
Yeah.
What's the strategies you're using?
Yeah, so 100%. I've narrowed in. That's kind of the same time period. First candle strategy is the only strategy I actually use on Thursdays and Fridays because of my limited time to trade those mornings before I take my kids to school.
Yep.
And then other days I'll do first candle strategy and bounce reject. Cool. That's my sweet spot. That's where I live. That's where I've had the most success. RBR and BRCs have I see them. I've executed them well. I have less consistency there.
Totally. Yeah, first candle, bounce reject, two of my favorites as well, and what I primarily play. What is roughly position size right now per trade? And I know it varies, A plus, whatever, but roughly about how much per trade are you using right now?
Yeah, I'm using, depends. First candle, I double up on that. Yep. Usually on my position size a little bit more. So on those, I'm anywhere from $10,000 to $15,000.
Tighter stop loss on the first candle strategy for those who don't know. And then a normal, like a bounce reject.
Yep.
What's your normal position size there?
$5,000. Cool. Yep.
So guys, we're talking not crazy huge amounts of money, but also significant money. What's great for those who don't know, we aren't risking that entire amount. So let's say he enters a trade with $5,000. He might only be risking 700 of the 5,000 on a trade to hopefully make more than that, 700. And that is, again, 5,000 of the total whatever he has in his portfolio. So we're actually risking very, very little money in regards to the trades that we take.
Real quick, Jared, that's one thing. So we're taught in UET, hey, you want to use, no more than 10% of what's in your portfolio for a trade, right? Mm-hmm. I continue to ignore that because I would look at that again, didn't like to lose. I saw, I still have money to trade with in my account today. Mm-hmm. It would be dumb not to work at this and deploy that. Well, how did that go for you, Andrew? Not great, because then you lose another trade and lose another trade. Now you have nothing to trade with for the day. And it just was a bad habit. So what I have done is I actually look at my full account size, including some money that I have in another account that's invested in more of a long-term hold, but it's liquid. And that is my full account size. And then what's in my Thinkorswim account, I do feel, okay, I position size it off the whole thing, if that makes sense.
Yep, that's what we teach UET. For those who don't know, it's a great way in a cash account to eliminate over trading, because guess what? You physically can't when you have it set up that way. So what we do in a nutshell is teach exactly what Andrew's saying. We have 2 to 3 trades worth of money in our account. And if you have, let's say, again, an example, $10,000, 8,000 of it is in a bank somewhere far away, and you have $2,000, which is 2 trades at $1,000 per trade, which is, again, following our 10% rule, while eliminating the desirability to over position size or continue to trade after your 2 to 3 trade limit. So let's go ahead and answer a few questions now. Yep. Feel free to throw them in. I will read them quick. Like I said, we've got about 5-6 minutes, Swindy, so as briefly as you can answer, let's go through them. One question is roughly what's your win to loss ratio with your current reward to risk? Again, roughly, where would you say win to loss ratio is?
Yeah, I think I looked, I'm at 72% as of this morning.
Cool.
So that's trades, yep. Right? That's on trades. And then day, man, I actually have to go look at that. I wish I should have grabbed my laptop, but can't even think about it. I think it's like almost 90%.
So you're having pretty much every day you're winning, and on the days even that you have losing trades, you're still winning. which is meaning his losses are much smaller than his wins, which is fantastic.
Yep.
Next question: when you first started seeing consistency with a small account, did you feel like you had to take a trade every day? I feel like that, but I also feel that mindset will create a forced trade sometimes. So 30 seconds, Swindy, what would you say to someone who feels like they need to take a trade every day, essentially, just to trade?
It's tricky for a smaller account size. If there's a plan to increase it over time, I would say if you've got the capital, the cash sitting on the sidelines waiting until you've proven, I would say take the trade every day, get the reps. If that's not the case, and this is like you've put all your $5,000 that you have of savings or that you can muster for your trading account in right now, a day off would be great for you. 2 days off would be great for you. That's a really good thing. That's something I also struggle with, is being able to say, okay, if I don't trade today, I'm losing opportunity cost to my family. So hopefully that's helpful.
Absolutely, that's great. Another question: what are you guys trading? We're trading big name blue chip type stocks. Some of our favorites in UET are the Tesla, Google's, Amazon, Apple's, Nvidia, AMD, SPY, QQQ, right? Just big name stocks that have lots of volatility, daily movement. They're fantastic for options trading because they're very liquid as well. Another quick question: what levels do you usually play? Very day to day, different, but our 4 kind of golden levels, key levels, are previous day high lows and pre-market high lows. So Swindle, quick question: what's your strategy to identify entering puts or calls for that first candle straight? That is our first candle strategy. And for you, Swindle, what is your favorite part about the first candle strategy? Is it the quickness of it? Is it the tight stop loss? Is it the simplicity? Like what would you say you love most about the first candle strategy?
I would say when it's A plus, it's 100% A plus. And that's what I like for me. Are there times when I enter where it's maybe an A or A minus? Absolutely. And I factor that into how much I maybe let it breathe. But it's just, for me, I read it super clear, and I see the little micro pullback and then go in either direction, right? And that, for me, playing off of those EMAs has become, I mean, that's the account growth, and that's the winnings you're seeing over the last few weeks.
Yeah, absolutely. So other quick questions: what are your favorite stocks to trade? Do you always follow potential plays, or are you doing your own thing now? We just went over the stock, so just very quick: do you just play potential plays, or do you play your own now as well?
Primarily potential plays. And back to that 2-week period when I had, I reduced my account down to 2K, I will say this. I had become too dependent on potential plays and what was being fed to me. So what I did is, before I would get into our Discord channel and look at the potential plays for the day, I would try to map out my own strategies. And I would say, okay, I know I'm looking at previous market, high, low, previous day, high, low. What's a zone, what's a wedge, what's a channel that might be happening here, those types of things. And I would map those out, and then I would pull up the potential plays as they came up. And that was tricky for me, because sometimes those potential plays come 10 minutes before market opens. And so some of it was a little bit slower, and there's a reason why they come that late, because it really helps to see what's happening right up until market opens, for those that know. It's not like, hey, we need those at 6 a.m. because there's no pre-market trend to understand. So there's a reason. But that was tricky for me. But what it did for me, I had to confirm, hey, what I'm seeing is similar to what UET and Jeremy are seeing. And when I started seeing similarities there, it was great. And when it was off, I would be able to pull back and say, okay, why did I think this level, and why is Jeremy showing this level as a key entry or a key resistance level or a bounce level? So that was really helpful exercise for me to do every day.
I love that. And that's something during our mastermind program that we really focus on as well. So if you're in our current mastermind, that's coming up in the coming weeks. Last 2 questions, Swinny. Number 1 is, so today, for those on here listening, again, he made, I think it was like $6,950. Let's round up to call it 7 on the day, $7,000 profit in one day, before 8 a.m. this morning, which is very cool. So why don't you share what 2 trades you took this morning, as far as what the strategy was, and if, like, how you would grade yourself on those 2 trades, basically.
Yeah. So first trade was Nvidia, first candle strategy. Had seen, the uptrend happening. I looked at that, saw first 2 minutes of the sometimes I'll toggle between in that first candle strategy, I'll toggle between 1 minute candles and 5 minutes, but I saw it pull down and I said, if it comes down to this level where the pre-market candle had ticked down to, I will enter there. That's going to be, and then I'll know my stop loss from there off after that. And sure enough, it ticked down to that level. And this is where there's that part of me that's like, first candle, you gotta jump in.
Yep.
There's a lot of people, we've all missed first candle entries because we were like, I don't know. And jump in right there. That tick down, similar to so you can see the first 5 minute candle pre-market tick down, entered there, and then shot up. And then it was really the last minute of that first 5 minute candle that it really jumped and trimmed. I think it was like 80% there. Yep, it was 80 there, and then let the runners run through that next candle.
Cool.
Next 5 minute candle that was up.
And
so that was my first.
How much? What return on money? Like at what point did you close out your runners? What percent were you?
So the first take profit was 23, I think it was today, and then it jumped up. It got all the way to like 32. It was like 30, I think. So I did 32, and then I had one runner that dipped back down to like 29.
So for those listening, again, that means that in a 5 minute candle with our first candle strategy, the money he invested, he saw a return of 29, to 32% in 5 minutes, right? So if you don't know options trading, that's how quickly things can move while trading options. It's pretty mind blowing. So yep, I watched that first candle strategy play out.
You played
ticked right down.
And yeah, you played the Tesla, and it was funny because like right as market opens, I was like, Tesla's the better first candle. Go with Tesla. But I had been looking, I had bias, from earlier in the morning to NVIDIA. And so, that's the thing is it's not an exact science. It's Jeremy talks about the music and the crescendo and the orchestra or the art, the painting the picture. I definitely feel more like, I'm just a guy on open mic night sometimes. And I've got a bunch of skills that I've been taught, and I know how to jam on the guitar, and I got an okay voice. I'm going to plug in and let it rip. And that's hard. We wish this was mathematics. We wish we were, mapping out equations on a chalkboard and all that, but it's not that simple. You got to be an artist.
Totally. So that brings me to my last question, actually, perfectly, and I'll kind of rephrase it. Last question. Thanks for hopping on, guys. This last question has nothing to do with masterminds, anything like that. It's a question for Andrew I think will be really helpful for you guys. But if you guys are interested in joining any of our mastermind programs, Uncommon 2.0, any of the boot camps we have coming up, let us know. We'd love to help you. Just shoot us a DM. But my last question for Andrew is, so many people come to me, and you guys raise your hand metaphorically or in your brain if this is you. So many people want to come into the stock market and just be told exactly what to do and have just a perfectly written out script of what to say. And what's funny is I see this in sales all the time, right? I was in sales for 7 years, was the VP of sales for a company before I came into Uncommon and day trading full time. And the best salesman didn't follow the perfect pitch, right? Like the written out script. They would memorize the script. They'd become very familiar with the script, but then depending on the situation, depending on who they were talking to, depending on the needs of the customer, they would essentially alter the script accordingly. It's the same thing in day trading, right? If day trading was just this rote script that you just had to memorize, everyone would make money because there would just be algorithms and bots that everyone could, put money into, and it would just follow this perfect system, right? And so the question is, and I am the biggest proponent of this, day trading is an art form. Day trading is a beautiful skill set art form where you don't break your rules until your rules tell you to break your rules, right? You don't over position size until you're in a situation where it's green light special, all systems go, right? You hold on till your take profit until the market tells you not to hold on to your take profit. So I feel like this is something you've done very well. And for those listening who are just so systematically mindset, and I think that's just how the world has taught us to be, what advice can you give? Whoops, almost knocked over my tripod. What advice can you give to those who are interested in learning this skill set, who are trying to, that are struggling with that piece where essentially you have to become an artist and you have to make it your own? What advice would you give there?
I would just ask that group of people a question. I would say, when is the last time in your life you tried to learn a new skill or do something new that got you out of your comfort zone? And what did you learn from that experience that you could apply to this? Because there are things that you need to learn, let go. There are things you need to double down on. So that's a big thing for me, is just get comfortable with being uncomfortable. And the only way to do that, you can read all the trading books you want. You can attend the mastermind 3 times like I have this year, which is super, super, super helpful, right? But if I had attended these 3 masterminds and had been in the market 20 days this year versus I think I'm at like 170 or 150,
right?
Like, and I've been wildly uncomfortable 90% of those mornings, you guys.
Yep.
And so, lean into that discomfort and find out other places in your life where you can test that. Whether that's taking up a new hobby, learning a new skill. The music example, pick up an instrument, learn something, feel uncomfortable, feel dumb, feel like you're not getting it, and sit in that feeling. And then, okay, what are the applications to my trading?
I love it. And one thing that, again, Andrew's done so well is he's rolled with the punches. Hasn't been a perfect, right, trajectory to get to where he is now, but guess what? There is no such thing, right? Compared to my time it took me to learn, he is perfect, right?
Yeah, right.
He has
Right.
done since February what took me 3.5 years to do. And even then, it's not like I was doing that well. I just wasn't losing money anymore. I was just profitable. So it really is all credit, all kudos to Andrew. Very generous, very humble, very grateful individual, but great friend as well. And again, a perfect example of just consistency, right? If there's anything I can just finish with in this example and every one we bring on to these IG lives is there's no secret, right? Whether it's April, Ricky G, right? We've got Andrew here. We've got all these different people, Driggs who you see. It's the same story. It's just consistency. It's simplifying it. It's focusing on a handful of stocks, 1 or 2 strategies, same time of day, same routine, right? Not being greedy, not trying to hit a grand slam, just singles and doubles over and over and over again. There really is no secret, but it's great to hear people like Andrew who are willing to open up and be honest about the journey and how a lot of times it won't happen the way you think. So if you are listening and trying to become that profitable day trader, use this as a case study, right? Use Andrew as an example of, hey, I relate. I am right where you were a couple weeks ago, or I have done that very same thing. And just know that you can get there, right? Just through consistency, just discipline and doing what you're supposed to. And lastly, is if this is something you want to learn how to do, right? This skill set allows people like me and Andrew, who I would say are kind of just your average, stereotypical dudes. We love to golf. we love to hang out. We love to fish. Like, my goodness, we're not, there's no like code to crack. We're about as what you see is what you get there is. And so it's like, look, if we can do it, you guys can do it, right? Let's help you get there. So again, on behalf of everyone, looks like all the feedback's been incredible the whole time, just how honest you were. They loved the interview, loved the story. Thank you, Andrew, for hopping on. Thank you, everyone, for listening. If you have questions, feel free to reach out to me. Otherwise, Swindy, we'll be in touch, my friend, okay?
Talk to you soon, brother.
Thanks, fellas. See you guys.